I really didn't want to make a video like this about JarreD Vanderbilt. Anyone who has followed this team knows the guy works hard, plays with real urgency, and has built his reputation on effort that doesn't show up in the box score. He's easy to root for. But at some point, you also have to be honest about what's actually happening on the floor. And right now, it's become impossible to ignore. Vanderbilt is no longer a meaningful part of this team's rotation. The clearest example? The last game against the Utah Jazz, a full DNP CD. Not a single minute. That absence lined up with LeBron's return, which immediately tightens their wing rotation. When LeBron is available, he naturally absorbs a huge portion of forward minutes. And with Rui Hachimura and Jalen LaRavia already ahead of Vanderbilt in the pecking order, the window for Vando gets smaller and smaller. But the truth is, his minutes were shrinking even before LeBron came back. Against Milwaukee, he logged just 8 minutes. And nearly half of those were garbage time minutes after the game was already decided. That's not a player trending upward or even holding steady. That's a player sliding out of the picture entirely. And it's not a mystery why. As much as fans love his defensive spark and energy plays, his fit within JJ Redick's system is a real issue. Offensively, the Lakers simply can't afford to stack non-shooters on the floor anymore. Luka Doncic isn't a pure floor spacer. DeAndre Ayton isn't either. Add Vanderbilt, a wing who provides almost no gravity beyond the paint, and spacing collapses instantly. You can see it in the film. Whenever Vanderbilt shares the floor with Luka, LeBron, or Austin Reeves, the spacing tightens. Defenses willingly help off him, clogging the driving lanes these stars rely on. And because JJ Redick's offense is built on spread pick and roll, 5-out spacing, and keeping the floor open for creators, Vando becomes a tough fit by default. No matter how hard he plays, the system doesn't bend in his favor. And that leads us to the big question fans keep asking. Are the Lakers actually considering trading him? And even if they wanted to, could they? This is where things get complicated. Vanderbilt's contract, which looked like a bargain 3 years ago, is aging poorly. The Lakers signed him to a 4-year, $48 million deal, and now he's in year 2 of that contract. He's making $11.5 million this season, $12.4 million next year, and $13.2 million in 2027 to 28, a year he controls due to his player option. Fully guaranteed, no team options, no partial guarantees. And here's the crazy part. He's one of only 2 players on the roster the Lakers have zero contractual control over after next season. The other one is Luka Doncic. And obviously, no one is comparing those two situations. But because of that contract and his current play, Vando's value has dropped. This season, he's giving them about 18 minutes per game, and many of those minutes have come in low-leverage situations. His scoring is at 4.5 points per game, which isn't the issue by itself. Vanderbilt has never been judged on scoring. But when the defense dips, when he's no longer an elite point-of-attack disruptor, suddenly the offensive limitations become too big to ignore. And right now, he's not playing at the defensive level he once did. Not consistently. Not enough to outweigh what he takes off the table. At this point in the season, JarreD Vanderbilt's situation has reached a crossroads, and not in a good way. He's averaging just 4.2 points per game, shooting a career-low 44% from the field, and struggling across every major scoring area. Whether it's finishing at the rim or stretching the floor from deep, Vanderbilt simply isn't giving the Lakers any efficient offensive production. His 28% three-point shooting makes him a complete non-threat spacing the floor, allowing defenses to collapse on the Lakers' primary scorers without hesitation. Yes, it's still early, and yes, you want to believe he'll eventually figure something out. But at some point, optimism becomes denial. Vanderbilt has shown almost no offensive improvement in 3 straight seasons. Across the 2023-24 and 2024-25 campaigns combined, he made only 8 threes one year and 9 the next, while barely appearing in 50 total games across both seasons. Availability has been an issue. Development has been an issue. Consistency has been an issue. And now this season, 4 made threes on 14 attempts through 14 games. That's it. When you're struggling offensively this much, you need to make it up on the other end. But Vanderbilt's defense, while good, hasn't been elite enough to justify the minutes he's losing. A bench player who isn't scoring, isn't spacing, and isn't anchoring the defense puts a coach in a difficult spot. Darvin Ham, and now Redick as well, can only give so many chances before asking the obvious question. If he's not helping us win possessions, why are we keeping him on the floor? That's the uncomfortable truth the organization is quietly dealing with. But that's not even the biggest issue. The contract problem. No one talks about it. The real obstacle is his contract. Players like Gabe Vincent or Max Christie, even if they're not producing at a high level, still have a clear advantage: expiring contracts. Rebuilding teams love expiring deals because they can clear their books at the end of the season. It gives them flexibility, cap relief, and zero long-term commitment. Vanderbilt, on the other hand, has 2 more fully guaranteed seasons after this one. Any team trading for him immediately locks themselves into paying that money, with no guarantee he'll improve or even stay healthy. And if that team tries to stretch his contract using the league's stretch provision, the dead salary would hit their books for 3 to 5 more years. So why would a rebuilding team take that risk? Why would a contender add a non-shooter with injury questions and guaranteed money? The answer? They wouldn't. In fact, when you combine the contract with his current production, Vanderbilt might not even have neutral value anymore. He could legitimately have negative trade value. The Lakers may want to move him, but other teams aren't lining up to take on long-term salary for a player who hasn't shown growth in years. The only way the Lakers could move him is by attaching a valuable trade asset, something they simply cannot afford to do with their limited draft capital. The Lakers aren't stuck with Vanderbilt because they want to be. They're stuck because the league doesn't want that contract, not at his current level of play. Even though JarreD Vanderbilt clearly isn't an ideal fit in the Lakers' offense, he still holds some value simply because the team needs depth. Trading him right now wouldn't just bring back nothing. It would likely require the Lakers to attach an asset just to move him. And that makes no sense for a team already limited in trade resources. So even if his role is shrinking, he brings more value by staying on the roster than he would in any trade scenario. There's still a chance he can settle in with more time under JJ Redick's system. Last year, he barely played within this offensive structure, and the team around him has changed significantly. The Lakers now run more dual big lineups with Hayes and DeAndre, a big shift from last season's heavy small ball approach. Back then, Vanderbilt usually shared the floor with at least one shooter, which allowed him to operate as the lone non-spacer. That spacing helped him offensively, even though the small ball lineups sometimes took him away from his best defensive role. This year, it's the opposite. His defensive assignments aren't aligning with his strengths. The spacing around him is worse, and he's not providing the disruptive presence that once made him so valuable. The result? A season where he's struggling on both ends, stuck in a role that doesn't match his skill set. The Lakers are caught in a strange middle ground. They'd love more flexibility, but with 3 more guaranteed years on his contract and virtually no trade market, moving him isn't realistic. Yet he's not a bad locker room presence. Nor is he completely useless on the floor. He still has matchups where his length, energy, and physicality matter. He's just not consistently impactful enough to secure a permanent rotation spot. Realistically, the path back into the rotation will probably require circumstances to break his way. An injury in the front court, someone ahead of him struggling, or a stretch of games where his defensive intensity forces the coaching staff to notice. That defensive spark is still Vanderbilt's calling card, and if he can recapture even a piece of that borderline elite form, it could justify giving him another look. Offensively, he doesn't need to become a shooter, but he does need to be better. Cleaner cuts, stronger finishes, smarter passes, and fewer possessions that break the flow of the offense. If he can just be reliable, everything changes. For now, though, the reality is simple. Vanderbilt is a depth piece, not a rotation lock. His future depends on whether he can earn trust again, and whether the system eventually finds a place where his strengths can shine.